Hey everyone, and welcome back to Talk Tickers. Today, we're going deep on KLA Corporation's latest earnings call.
Definitely a company to watch, you know? They play a pretty crucial role in the whole semiconductor world.
Yeah, for sure. They're like the quality control experts, making sure all those tiny chips that power pretty much everything these days actually, actually work the way they're supposed to.
Right, exactly. Like without them, well, our phones, computers, all that stuff would be pretty much useless.
Okay, so let's get into it. They just reported their December quarter and full year 2024 results.
And well, the headline is they're crushing it.
Yeah, they are record revenue, over $10.85 billion for the year.
Which is a 12% jump. Yeah.
That's wild, especially considering everything that's going on in the industry.
Exactly. And what's even more impressive is that their process control revenue, which is like their bread and butter,
Their core business.
Exactly. That also grew by over 12%.
So it's not just that the whole industry is doing well, they're actually like taking more market share.
Right. They're outperforming.
Which is huge. And get this, their December quarter revenue actually went over $3 billion for the first time ever.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's some serious momentum.
Especially when you think about, the elephant in the room.
You mean the impact of the new U.S. export controls on China?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's got to be a big factor, right?
Yeah, definitely. They're estimating a $500 million hit to their 2025 revenue just because of those controls.
So how are they dealing with that?
Well, they're being proactive.
Oh,
they're
yeah.
actively going after licensing opportunities that could help soften the blow.
Okay, so kind of working around the edges.
Yeah, and they seem pretty confident that they can still beat the overall market despite those challenges.
I mean, they're projecting mid-single-digit growth for the whole semiconductor equipment market in 2025.
Right. But they think they can do even better than that.
So what makes them so confident?
Well, they're really banking on two big trends: AI and advanced packaging.
Interesting. Okay, so let's unpack those, starting with AI.
Yeah.
How does that play into their business?
Well, they see AI as a huge driver of demand for even more powerful and complex chips, at least in the near term.
Which plays right into their strengths.
Right, because the more complex the chips get, the more important their process control tools become.
Gotcha. And what about advanced packaging? What is that exactly?
So basically, you can have the best individual chips in the world, but if they're not packaged together correctly, the whole thing's a dud.
Like a super complex puzzle where all the pieces have to fit perfectly.
Exactly, and that's where KLA comes in. Their tools make sure that those intricate chip arrangements work the way they're supposed to.
And this part of their business is booming, right?
Oh yeah, it's exploding. They're projecting it'll hit $800 million in 2025.
Wow. That's a huge jump from their previous estimate of $750 million. It seems like they're in a really good spot to take advantage of these trends.
Absolutely. And a big part of their record revenue growth is coming from the resurgence in leading-edge logic chip production.
So that's where things get really interesting, because as chips get smaller and more complex, the margin for error shrinks dramatically.
Right. Even the tiniest flaw can make a chip completely useless.
And that's where KLA's expertise really shines.
Exactly. Their process control tools become essential for maintaining high yields and keeping those production lines running smoothly.
Especially as we move towards the 2-nanometer node.
Right. It's like having a microscopic inspector examining every single chip for even the smallest imperfection.
So leading-edge logic is a clear win for them. But what about the memory sector? It's been kind of a roller coaster ride lately, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. But even within the memory market, KLA is finding ways to succeed.
Oh, really? Like how?
Well, they're seeing a surge in demand for high bandwidth memory, or HBM.
HBM. That sounds familiar.
What is that again?
Think of it as the superhighway for data.
Okay, I'm with you.
It's essential for handling those massive amounts of information that AI systems process. And guess what? HBM requires incredibly precise manufacturing.
Which means more demand for KLA's process control solutions.
Bingo. You got it. The complexity and the fact that there's no redundancy in those HBM chips makes KLA's tools even more critical. So even though the memory market might be a little unpredictable, KLA is in a good position to capture those high-value segments.
Right, they're being strategic.
Right.
And it's not just about selling equipment either.
Oh, yeah. Their services business is incredibly strong, too. Like 50 consecutive quarters of growth. That's insane.
It is. That consistent growth in their service revenue really shows how strong their customer relationships are.
It's like they're not just selling machines, they're building these long-lasting partnerships.
Exactly. Almost like they're a dedicated support team for their customers' chip-making factories.
That makes a lot of sense. And a reliable service revenue stream like that can really help them weather those ups and downs of the semiconductor industry. Seems like they've built a pretty solid foundation.
Yeah, they have. But,
That,
even with all this success, there's always room to think outside the box, wouldn't you say?
yeah, that's where our This Is Not Financial Advice segment comes in.
Uh-huh.
Let's say, just for fun, that KLA decides to spin off its advanced packaging business.
Oh, wow. You mean like create a whole separate publicly traded company?
Yeah, exactly. Take this $800 million beast, projected to double this year, and just let it run wild.
No, that would definitely get people's attention.
Right. Investors are always looking for a piece of the action in a booming market like advanced packaging.
For sure. And it would let KLA really zero in on its core process control business.
Okay, I see the logic there. But let's back up for a sec and look at the numbers behind their success. They finished 2024 with a 61% gross margin and a 41% operating margin.
Yeah, those are some seriously healthy numbers, especially for an industry that's known for being so up and down.
Exactly. Those margins show how much value they bring to their customers and how well they manage their costs.
And it also means they have a lot of pricing power in the market.
Which makes sense. I mean, they offer these super specialized and essential products and services.
Right. They're not easily replaceable.
And all that translates into some serious cash flow. They generated $3.4 billion in free cash flow in 2024.
So they're not just growing, they're incredibly profitable too.
Exactly. So what can they do with all that cash?
Well, it gives them a lot of options. They can invest in future growth, like through R&D or strategic acquisitions.
Or they could return some of that value back to their shareholders.
Right. And speaking of shareholders, KLA returned $2.9 billion to them in 2024 through dividends and buybacks.
So they're growing revenue, keeping those margins strong, generating tons of cash, and rewarding their investors. It's a pretty impressive track record.
Yeah, no doubt. But let's not forget, they're not operating in a vacuum. It's a competitive landscape out there.
Right. KLA may be the top dog in process control, but there are other players in the game.
Yeah, their biggest rival is Applied Materials.
Another giant in the semiconductor world.
Exactly.
So it's kind of a David and Goliath situation.
You could say that, but KLA is definitely punching above its weight. They've consistently grown their process control revenue faster than Applied Materials over the past few years.
So what's their secret weapon?
Their laser focus on process control. While Applied Materials has a wider range of products across different segments of the semiconductor equipment market. KLA has really doubled down on its specialty.
And it's paying off.
Absolutely. They're like the master craftsmen of quality control in the chip-making world.
And as those chips become even more complex, that expertise is only going to become more valuable.
Right. Applied Materials is trying to catch up. They're investing heavily in their own process control solutions.
But it's not easy to play catch-up, especially when the leader is also constantly innovating.
It's like a race to the top, and KLA is determined to stay ahead.
So they're investing aggressively in R&D, pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Yeah, and they're also expanding globally to better support their customers all over the world.
One area where they seem to have a real advantage is e-beam inspection.
Right. That uses a beam of electrons to examine chips for defects.
That's like a super high-powered microscope.
Yeah, it gives them incredibly high resolution and sensitivity. And while Applied Materials is also working on e-beam solutions, KLA has a head start and a really strong reputation.
So it's a competitive market for sure. But KLA seems to be holding its own against these industry giants.
They are. But it's not all about competition either.
True. The semiconductor industry is all about collaboration, too.
Right. KLA works really closely with chip manufacturers, foundries, and other equipment suppliers to make sure their solutions fit seamlessly into the whole chip production process.
It's like a giant puzzle with all these different pieces that have to work together perfectly.
Exactly. And that kind of collaboration is key for driving innovation and keeping a global semiconductor supply chain running smoothly.
It's a good reminder that even in a cutthroat industry like this cooperation is still super important. Now looking ahead, there's this big question mark hanging over the whole semiconductor landscape.
Yeah, what's the impact of AI going to be?
Right. We talked about how AI is driving demand for more advanced chips, but could it also disrupt the industry in ways we haven't even thought of?
That's the million-dollar question, and there's no easy answer. Some experts think that AI could actually lead to less demand for advanced chips in the long run.
Oh, really? Because it's so efficient.
Right. But KLA doesn't seem too worried about that.
Why not?
They're betting on the fact that there's always going to be a need for new AI applications.
Which means a need for more powerful chips.
Exactly. And of course, more powerful chips means a need for even more sophisticated process control solutions. So in a way, AI is both driving demand and potentially disrupting the industry.
That's a pretty interesting dynamic.
It is, and KLA is definitely aware of this. They're positioning themselves to handle whatever comes their way.
So how are they doing that?
Well, they're investing in AI-powered solutions that make their own products even better.
So they're using AI to improve their AI solutions.
Exactly. And they're also looking at how AI can be used to optimize the entire chip manufacturing process.
Wow, that could really revolutionize the industry.
It could. It's
Yeah.
definitely something to watch.
So it sounds like they're not just sitting back and waiting to see what happens. They're taking charge of their own future,
Right. And they're not afraid to think big either.
like with that potential spin-off of their advanced packaging business.
Exactly. Whether they actually do it or not, it shows that they're willing to explore these big strategic options.
And that they're committed to doing what's best for their shareholders.
Right. So we've covered a lot here, from their amazing financial performance to the competitive landscape and the potential impact of AI.
But there's one more thing we need to talk about. Their global reach. KLA isn't just focused on the US. They're a global player with operations all over the world.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Their success isn't tied to any one region.
Yeah.
They've got a presence pretty much everywhere, from the US and Europe to Asia and everywhere in between.
And it's not just about selling equipment either, right? It's about building those relationships with chip makers around the world.
Exactly. They've built this massive network of service and support centers, so no matter where their customers are, they've got access to expertise and help whenever they need it.
It seems like that kind of global reach is more important now than ever, especially with all the different companies from all these different countries involved in chip production these days.
Absolutely. It's like KLA is the conductor of an orchestra, making sure all the different parts of the chip-making process are working together in sync.
But let's be real. A global operation like that has to come with some challenges too, right?
Of course. We've already talked about those U.S. export controls on China. That's a pretty big geopolitical hurdle they have to navigate.
For sure. So how are they dealing with that?
Well, it definitely makes things more complicated, but they're adapting. They're looking into those licensing opportunities we talked about, trying to diversify their customer base and focusing on regions where they see the most growth potential.
Sounds like they're taking a very strategic approach.
Yeah, they are. And remember, being global also gives them a really good view of emerging trends and technologies.
Oh, that's a good point. What are they seeing out there?
Well, for example, they're seeing huge growth in advanced packaging in Asia, particularly in places like Taiwan and South Korea, where chip making is a major industry.
So those export controls might be creating some headwinds in some areas, but they've got other regions where they can really capitalize on those growth opportunities.
Right. It's all about balance. And so far, they seem to be handling it pretty well.
Now, before we wrap up, let's go back to our This Is Not Financial Advices segment for a second.
Okay, let's get those creative juices flowing.
Yeah.
We talked about KLA maybe spinning off their advanced packaging business, but what if they took things even further?
How much further?
What if they created a whole new division that was entirely focused on AI-powered process control solutions?
Whoa, you're talking about a whole separate company dedicated to the cutting edge of AI and chip making.
Exactly. It would be a huge move.
It would, for sure. It would basically be them saying, we're all in on AI. This is the future of the semiconductor industry.
Right. And this new company could attract the best and brightest minds in both AI and chip making. It could really accelerate innovation. And who knows, maybe it could even become the leader in this whole new market.
It's a pretty bold idea.
It is. It's definitely a high risk, high reward. But KLA has shown they're not afraid to take a chance when they believe in something.
And it just goes to show how many exciting possibilities a company like KLA has in front of them.
Exactly. They're not just riding the wave of the semiconductor boom, they're actively shaping the future of the industry.
So to wrap things up, we've really gone deep on KLA Corporation, a company that's playing an absolutely crucial role in the world of semiconductors.
From their record-breaking revenue and strong margins to their global reach and strategic vision, they're doing a lot of things right.
They're handling geopolitical challenges, embracing those new trends, and constantly innovating to stay ahead of the game. KLA is definitely a company to keep your eye on in the ever-changing world of technology.
Absolutely. And that wraps up our deep dive into KLA Corporation. Thanks for joining us on Talk Tickers.
And as always, remember everything we've talked about here is just for informational purposes only. This is not financial advice.
Right. Always do your own research. Talk to a financial advisor and make those investment decisions based on your own situation.
We'll catch you on our next Deep Dive.